Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the podcast where I get to sit down with Brian and Brayden and talk about guns, which I've been wanting to do for so long. And so basically what's going on here is that we've done the broadheads, the bows, the arrows, the tuning, and really have built into more technical aspect of archery. And we're going to continue to do that because that's what this thing is really founded on. But what we're also going to do is start doing that with guns as well. You know, On Point isn't just an archery podcast. On Point is not a bottleneck. Basically, On Point is a state of being, a state of mind that you're going to be the best you can, the most efficient hunter you can be by doing all the work, having a great mentality, having a great work ethic, just to be the best, most efficient hunter you can be, regardless of weapon. So now we're going to start getting into the guns. And Brian and Hayden have both been getting quite heavy into it for about 5 to 6 years now. And thought it would be a really great episode to get guys that have been working into the long-range guns and stuff like that. I've got some experience in it, and it really made for a good conversation on some beginning tips to buying a gun, what to focus on, accessories to get, where your money should really be focused on prior to purchasing and after purchasing your platform. So I appreciate Brian and Brayden for both coming on to the show, and I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you at the end. Bye. So let's go over, let's get some introductions going on here.
Okay.
So, Brian.
Yes.
What's going on?
I don't know. I got invited to do a podcast. I guess some basic building thoughts and I guess how I would do things. And, you know, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know how to get some stuff rolling, some of the basic stuff. And, you know, like you said, you can just spend hours and hours and hours digging into this. And it really is a rocket science. Just depends on what you want to do. Do you want to load just for, you know, just go out there and burn a bunch of ammo, or are you loading for accuracy, or, you know, what's your poison?
Right. Well, this, like we said off recording here, is, you know, this will be the basic for folks that are listening. The first episode of many rifle building and rifle episodes, ballistics episodes, we're going to kind of do the same thing with rifles that we've done with the bows. And so this is going to be a great podcast because you guys. You were telling me your background and all this stuff, and it just seems like a really good fit for this episode. So Perfect. I appreciate you taking your time away from your family, man, and coming over here.
It's going to be fun.
Hanging out.
You know, when you asked me the other night, I was like, I don't know. I didn't even know what to say. I was like, I've never done nothing like this before. You know?
Were you serious when you invited me? Like, yeah, hell yeah, I was serious. So, Brayden.
Yeah.
Let's get a little bit about you.
Yeah, Brayden Klein. How you doing? I'm pretty much the younger brother to Brian, who I never had. He's the older brother I never had, and
very true.
Yeah, he's definitely the guy that really got me started shooting, wanting to build a rifle, wanting to get into some longer range hunting for these Western Oregon species.
Right.
Started out bow hunting, and there's just something that just doesn't sit right with me with big blacktail bucks getting away. So it made me want to start, you know, developing a rifle that was capable of shooting what I can see, you know, because some of the animals that we hunt are so elusive.
Right.
That, you know, it's you know, that was my, you know, driving force that made me want to get into shooting.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny you said, because you tried to get into blacktails. You see that nice blacktail downstairs, that 3-point?
Yep.
The first year I ever took a long-range capable gun out in the woods with my wife, I'm like, okay, we're going to give her the best odds here. You know, but we'll shoot 600-700 yards with this thing. And she killed that blacktail with my 308 at 487. My fault, because I dialed the scope a little bit, like too little high, so she spined him, and then he dropped, and we had to put another one in him. But
sure,
that was her first buck ever. That blacktail down, which is bigger than, you can see the little 4x3 I have mounted there and a 3-point I have there. That's bigger than any blacktail I've ever killed.
Right.
So that's the main reason we started building long-range builds, is because I'm like, I can see these toads.
Right.
I just can't reach them.
And that's how. Yeah. That's basically why, you know, as much as I love bow hunting and stuff, you know, I bow hunted blacktails for years and years and years, and I got to the point where you're seeing these 140 plus bucks, one a season maybe, and you get out and you get drawn back on him. Well, he's dogging a doe. Well, he's not running from you. That doe takes off, and he's like, well, she's leaving. I'm out, know. And hey, with a rifle, you might not see that caliber of buck a season, at all, maybe every 2 seasons. But when you do, a lot of the times, the places that we've been hunting and stuff, you can glass those bucks up, and you got a way better opportunity, I think. I think you got to put in a little bit more of an effort, to do this during rifle season. But I mean, we all freaking elk hunt with a bow, and I mean the effort you put in there is just as much, if not more, than what you're going to do for rifle blacktail.
For sure.
So there's always that, and you're coming right out of bow season, right into rifle season, so you're already in a good hiking shape for say.
Right.
So you can do those hunts and not have to worry about getting in shape and doing that sort of stuff because you've already gone through bow season.
Right. I like my early season bucks and hunting in general. I don't wait for the rut anymore, and I've said that a few times on the podcast talking about late season blacktails. It's like I'm the only one out in the woods hunting blacktails. Everybody's looking for elk, and so you got these big dandy blacktails in these units you can go try and kill. It's something, and like you said, just going straight after bow season. How long have you been? Because you're a bow hunter, just like I am, and so is Brayden.
Right. The first buck that I ever killed was with a bow.
Really?
I was 12 years old, and my dad, he's always bow hunted and stuff. And so before I got into bow hunting and stuff, my parents, before I was born and everything, they used to go to these little archery 3D shoots, before it was a big deal. And they were shooting like old school recurves with fiberglass arrows, wooden arrows, when stuff was real old school. Yeah. So I started, kind of showing some interest in that. And so my dad bought me a bow, and it was a Browning. It went to 45 pounds. First morning we hunted, we were sitting along this barbed wire fence, and this little buck hops the fence. And it was everything I could do to get that thing pulled back. And I got it pulled back, and I shot him. And it was like 15 yards. And I was 12. That was the first deer tag I ever had was with a bow. And then I didn't even kill a buck out of velvet until I moved to Oregon in '98.
Really?
So I'd see pictures and watch, shows and stuff. Everybody's killing these bucks that's not in velvet. And I'm like, how? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. When I got a little bit older, I started understanding it. But when I was younger, all we did was bow hunt. And in California, bow season, there's some like Central California and not Southern, but, like Bishop area, Tehachapi type stuff. There's some units down there that open in July.
Yeah.
And
I almost feel like that's a shame. Like, they still have more to grow.
Right. And you look at their horns, and they're not to that point yet. There's no point where they're going to quit growing. It's still kind of a nub, But I didn't know what it was like to kill a buck out of velvet until I moved here. And the guys I met, they're like, yeah, no. We don't shoot bucks now. We save that till November, I'm like, what do you mean?
That's funny.
So, and then I started killing some bucks with my bow in November, and then I ended up getting a rifle tag one year, and I had a blast. I didn't kill a buck that year, and I went back to bow hunting and killed a couple more, and then I got to the point where I was putting in a bunch of time and starting passing up bucks, and then, I'm looking for bigger bucks than I have killed before, putting in some more effort, and ended up, I got tired of bucks getting away, and I've seen some really, really good bucks bow hunting, and the biggest one I've killed with a bow is 125. It's a 4-point, and
that's a good buck.
It's a decent buck, but it took me a long time to do that. But the bucks that and not to say that I haven't missed any big ones, but I've missed quite a few bucks too.
That's a 125-inch blacktail.
Yeah,
that's
125
a stud buck.
Blacktail.
Yeah.
I killed that in 2010, I believe. I killed that buck.
Was it velvet?
No, that was late season. That was in November.
Was
it? There was like 18 inches of fresh snow from the last couple of days, and it was 24 degrees. Just driving down one of these roads with no tracks on it, no tire tracks in front of me, and I look over to my left, and the buck's standing there broadside at like 11 yards. So I drive by him, I get out, knock an arrow, go to full draw, and I walk backwards at full draw, and he's still standing there. All I could see was his head, and so I put my pin down into the snow. You could see where it was like in a little brush pile, I put my pin down into the snow, and you just see this little pink spray out behind him, and off he went, and he died. And
That's how most of the blacktail in late season are probably killed right there.
Oh, yeah. I mean
90%.
driving around, I mean.
It's so productive.
It is, with the roads so close together,
Yeah.
you know, unless you go down to, you know, like Southern Oregon, you know, there's some spots out there where you can tree stand hunt or ground blind or whatever like that. But, you know, for around here, you could do the same thing. I never did. I had way more action, saw way more deer driving around, you know, or you drive around to one end and you hike that ridge down to the other end and rattle a little bit and then walk back to the truck and then you never see anything rattling. You get back in the truck, you drive to the other end, there's freaking bucks in the road. And you're like, well, why am I getting out of the truck?
Exactly. That's been our experience is like, man, we'll hike, rattle, and then we'll drive a quarter mile down the road when we get back, and then there's a buck. I'm like, why are we doing this?
Right. Yep.
But so for the rifle stuff, I've had some questions rattling around in my head for a while, and just this will be obviously a great podcast for it. So when choosing a rifle platform, how do you even start with a platform? What I mean by a platform is like a lot of guys like the 700 Actions by Remington. It seems like most of the builds I see, or when I was into long range, when I was pretty heavy into it, were 700 Actions.
As far as I know, the Model 700, you know, there's a lot of military use. It's got a good reputation because of that, especially some of the older ones. The older ones were built, I think, to a little bit more of a higher tolerance level. They don't have nearly the reputation they did before, but they still have a really, really good reputation. From what I've heard, you know, I'm not any means by, you know, like the go-to guy for any of this stuff, but I know enough to get you going and that sort of thing. I do have my 300 Win Mag is a Model 700. It's a stainless Model 700. I took the factory stock off and I put a Bell & Carlson medalist stock on it.
Oh, really? Okay. Nice one.
Bedded that. Had a brake put on it. I shoot Berger 210s. I think it's 73 grains of H1000, I think, and it's like it's going 2850-ish right in there. So far, as far as I've gotten out with it, is 1650.
That's a long ways.
You know, and you're not pounding at 1650 by any means, you know, but I've got enough travel in the scope and everything, and I'm sitting on a 40 MOA rail, where I can. It's just fun to see if you can hit that 24 by 24 inch plate at 1650, which is really just shy of a mile, you know, and that was my goal for a long time, which is I just want to hit a mile, not necessarily group at a mile, but I spent an awful lot of money just trying to hit at a mile. And
I've been there back when I started. I bought a turned out to be the biggest piece of shit gun I ever owned, but it was a Winchester Model 70 Laredo Classic Boss. It's a long. A lot of words in the name, but so it was I believe it had like a Bell & Carlson stock on it. It was pillar bedded, and I may be wrong. It might have been a different one. But
so pillar bedding, I don't know if you know this, but pillar bedding and action bedding are two different things. Yeah,
let's get into that stuff.
Okay.
So this gun was a 7 mag, and from everything back when I started a few years ago, a lot of guys were shooting 7 mags. Now it's completely different now, but. So if I'm going to go
hybrids and everything else, and
so if I'm going to go buy something, like what I suggested back when I was doing it was go buy like a 700 long range, you know, bed the lug and do some other stuff to it, and you're going to have a really good gun for pretty cheap. Is that still applicable nowadays, or?
Yeah, I think even more so now than it's ever been. You know, now that there's a lot of these. That these companies are making these so-called 1,000-yard out of the box, you know, because everybody's going to this. Let's go long range. Long range. But you can't hit a freaking pie plate at 100 yards on a bench, okay? You know,
on a good day,
right? On a good day, you know. But that's how all these manufacturers are advertising. It's 1,000-yard out of the box,
right?
You know, and being a guide, I've seen guys come out with this equipment. I'm like, man, that is some nice looking stuff. And you start looking at it, and it really is. It's really quality equipment. Well, the guy holding it can't shoot worth a shit,
right?
You know, but still,
the gun's capable.
Oh yeah, right out of the box. I mean, they're built like that. You know,
well, most guns nowadays are built to shoot under an MOA. I mean,
right.
If I don't have a gun that doesn't shoot half. for me personally, I don't even shoot. I just get rid of it.
Right,
If I can't shoot under an inch, that's a shitty gun.
That's why I sold my first Lapua, is because I couldn't get it to go underneath 2 inches, and I actually sent it. It was a Savage 110 long range hunter.
Okay.
I got that one first, and I messed with it, and my buddy Stan Pate that shoots for Savage, I had many conversations with him about this rifle. I was just telling you about working the Portland Sportsman Show in the Savage booth, and I was talking to Stan pretty much for a week trying to figure out what was wrong with this gun. Well, ended up we sent it back to Savage, and the gunsmith at Savage threw it away and sent me a brand new one. They couldn't fix it.
Really?
So all that hair pulling, all the pounds of powder, the primers, the brass, the bullets, all was for nothing because there was something wrong with it. Right. They couldn't fix it, so they sent me a brand new one. That one I got down a minute, maybe a little more than a minute, and I put a lot of effort into that one. And so I sold that one. And then I bought the Savage. No, it was a 111 long range hunter is what I bought first, and then I bought the Savage 110 FPC that came with the it's not a Bell and Carlson stock. It's a HS Precision stock.
Yep.
The HS Precision on there. Bedded that one. It's basically the same action with some different bolt-on stuff. The barrel's a little bit bigger around. It weighs a lot more than the long range hunter does. I got that one down to just not quite a half minute, just over a half minute, but I was pretty impressed with it. And I've shot that one a lot, out to 1,000, 1,200, 1,300, and been, I wouldn't say, I'm probably 75% with it at that range, but like 700, 800, 900, you're up there in the mid 90 percentage, just laying down shooting at steel. I spent a lot of money to hit steel. I don't know why, but you listen to that steel ring out, it's a lot of fun. It is very addicting. Yeah. So.
Well, I remember when I was getting in it with my 7 mag, that Winchester Laredo, I was doing like $150 in ammo a weekend. Like just by factory.
It's like that. Yeah. It doesn't take long to do it at all.
No.
You can burn through that ammo.
Yeah.
And 7 mags, I've got 4 of them.
Do you?
7 mag is probably one of my favorite calibers. My son's got one. It's a Savage 110. We built a load for it, developed a load. He's got Hornady brass, shoots 168 burgers with 57 or so grains. I don't even remember what his load. I'd have to look what his load is. Maybe 60 some grains of H1000. And that gun likes the bullet all the way up to the lands and grooves. I think we're shooting with his like 2,000ths off the lands, 3,000ths off the lands. And we bought it for him for his 12th birthday. He's almost 17 now. I've had the same scope, I have the same load for it all this time, and he can lay down behind that thing, and he can shoot 1,000, 1,100 yards with it with no problems.
He's killed a lot of shit with that gun.
Yeah, he has. That pronk. I'll tell you what, that kid he's killed a lot of shit. He's been pretty lucky. The first buck he killed with it, he had a cast on.
Very lucky.
Really?
Yeah, had a
That's
cast
crazy.
on, and he shot it 75 yards and got it mounted and everything. So it was a good buck. And but so the Savages and the Remingtons, my dad's got a Howa 7 mag, model 1500, basically an identical replica of a model 700. Hey, I killed a bear at 1082 with that gun.
Really?
And it was like, how far is that? Okay, and the scope that's on there still is a Nikon Monarch. There's before they went to the Monarch 3s, 5s, 7s, so just a Nikon Monarch. And you could send in all your information. They'd cut a turret for you, send your turret back.
That's cool.
Well, the turret's only cut to 1,000 yards. So on the app that I have, it would tell you how many clicks. So I had to count clicks, and I think it was like 106 clicks or something to get the 1082. So I'm counting in my head, as I'm turning this thing. And since then I made a chart, this many yards is this many clicks, this many yards is this many clicks. But range hitting, it was 1082. It was an hour before dark, and laid down behind it, got comfortable, and I was like, all right, you ready? And, my son was with me, and Chad was with me, and like, yeah, go for it. And shoot, and they're like, smoked it. I'm like, yeah, right, no way, And hey, so we went over there and couldn't get down on it. Went down the wrong part. It got dark, and so we ended up getting out there. Went over there the next morning. I mean, like 3 inches behind the shoulder, just
Really?
freaking smoked.
Huh.
And I was in awe. Like, there is no way. You're standing there looking across this canyon going, holy shit,
Yeah.
we shot from there, you know,
Yeah.
from one landing across the canyon, basically below another landing, you know, below this rock bluff where this bear was feeding. And that was a factory gun with a whip machine muzzle brake. It's a clamp-on muzzle brake.
Really?
And we put one on Brayden's gun.
I just pulled them up looking for their name. Yeah.
Whip machine. It is all you do is you measure with a pair of calipers, you measure the end of the muzzle and an 1.5 inches back. You send it to them, what caliber it is, and they'll cut it, send it back to you. You put some Loctite on the barrel, put that brake on there, and tighten down the screws in the sequence that they tell you. It's freaking awesome.
Really?
I mean,
$89 shipped to you.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Item is made to order, 5 to 7 days for delivery.
That's
Yeah.
really impressive.
Dude.
That's what I put on my.
I didn't know that was a thing.
First long range
Right.
build is I just wanted a muzzle brake, and that was Brian's recommendation. For something to start out with, and
Right, and he
no
bought
complaints.
a Savage 116.
111.
111. Sorry,
stainless.
he got a 111 stainless,
Mm-hmm.
and that's before the 116. So he got a 111 stainless, and then bought the Bell and Carlson stock, and we bedded it and put that on there, and came up with a load, shooting basically the same load I have, the Berger 210s with 73.4 whatever it is grains of H1000. I did notice a big difference with CCI primers versus Federal primers versus Remington primers. Your groups for me changed quite a bit, and what numbers mean on those, I have no idea. I don't know which ones are hotter, which ones are colder, but the Remingtons between was it like a 9.5 or a 9 or whatever? I know that those one's hotter than the other, but the Federal 215s, that's what all the forums talk about, and I did a lot of reading about this stuff, and I mean, it's just endless.
I'll tell you, when I started building loads for my 7 mag, and I'll tell you why I stopped here. I was researching online, like Peterson's Long Range or something like that, or all these forums, and I'm like researching loads, and I ended up on Burgers. I don't know, it's so long ago. One of these Burger VLDs probably, or something like that, and worked up this load, took it out to the range. Me and my 3 buddies out at Canyonville range. Me and 3 buddies are out there shooting. I put in my first round, and then boom, I blow up my gun, blew up my bolt, hit my buddy with shit next to me like 4 feet. I had powder burns all over my face.
Oh man.
Oh boy. And it looked like a pistol casing. There was no neck by the time I had to take it to Kurt. He had to take the gun apart to get it out.
Sure.
And I guess what happened is that I followed the load data. It was complete bullshit, and it was half of the powder I should have used.
So you didn't have enough powder in there.
Yeah, it created like a bomb.
Right,
in
so
the casing.
that's crazy. You don't put enough powder in a case, it
Boom.
blows the other direction.
Yeah, that's what it did.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling me how that works.
Where did you get that load data?
It was off of some
some
website.
forum.
Yeah.
Some
So
guy used.
I was
Oh,
like,
no.
fuck this. I'm shooting factory.
Yeah.
And so I shot factory, 600, 700, 800 yards. I would say semi-accurately.
Right. And,
with SSTs, ALDs,
right.
ELDXs.
And now you can get some high-performance factory ammunition.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
Where
Super performance through Hornady's
when
pretty damn accurate.
I first started, trying to get into this long-range stuff. So when we first started with this, we had bought my daughter a Savage 110.
Uh-huh.
It put a Nikon, like, Pro Staff scope on it, just run-of-the-mill, $250, $300 scope on there, and it had the BDC reticles in there. So then I found the app for the BDC reticles, and I started looking that up. Enter all your info in there. Well, the top of this circle is this, the top of this one's this, and this and this. Change the power, and it's a second focal plane scope. Or first focal. I always get those two mixed up.
Second, yeah. If you're having to be on a certain power, it's a second.
Right, second. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then you can go to expanded ballistics, and it tells you what the top, the middle, and the bottom of every one is, and then the top of post. And, I think it was on like 9 power. I think it was a 4 to 15 or something, and on 9 power, the top of post was 1,000 yards.
Really?
So I was like, well, let's see if this really works, So we set out there, we had a Burger loaded up 168s. I don't even remember what the load is for it, and we set the gong out there at $1,000 and turned that sumbitch to 9. At 9 power, at the top of the post on that 9 power, you're pretty much covering up more than the gong, and
Right.
boom, bong. You're like, no way. Holy shit, do that again, you know? So then that's how we pretty much got started in this whole long range thing. And then we got a different scope for it where we didn't have to do the different powers, you know, and use the reticles like in that sense. And now the scopes that we use depends on what, if you want MOAs, if you want mills, you know, I mean, there's still, you can go.
I went with mill back when I started just because I struggled over which one do I choose, and then finally like, you know what, just pick one, and I went with mill, and for me the math was easier,
right?
Because it's like tens,
right?
It's easier, and so that's why I went with mills. I mean, I can still do MOAs. It's really easy once you understand it. It's pretty damn easy. And most of the scopes nowadays, my mom has a Gunworks. It's like, I don't know, it's a 264 that's a 6.5 by 284.
A Gunworks gun?
Yeah.
And
whole setup, whole shebang. And so literally you just dial to the yardage. It tells you on the scope.
Right. And then you can order different turrets for that through Gunworks for different elevations that you're going to be hunting at. Yeah, it is.
That thing is legit. Let me tell you.
Yeah, those guys, you know, Aaron Davidson and whatever his brother's name, those guys put in some time.
Dude, that is a true out of the box.
Right.
1,000-yard gun. But so if I'm going to go and I'm Joe Schmo, and I'm going to go buy a let's just start with the Remington 700 long range. What would be some things that you would do to that gun firsthand to go out and shoot 800 plus yards?
Well, the Remington 700 long range, I believe, already comes with an HS Precision stock on it.
I believe so. It's been so long since I've been out of it.
It comes with an HS Precision stock or a Bell & Carlson Medalist. They're pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. Right out of the box, depending on what caliber it was, I'd probably put a brake on it. I like, not just because of the recoil, but I like it where your sight picture doesn't come off the target so far with the brake. You know, for me, that's, you know, as much tournament archery as I shoot, I like my sight picture to stay where it's at, you know. So when I squeeze that trigger and it breaks, it's moving a little bit and I'm right back on target. Mm-hmm. But for a Remington Model 700, that's a long range one. I mean, you're paying $1,000 for the gun, you know, $1,100 for the gun, and depending on what it is, you might have to buy, if you don't have any means of reloading, you might go buy 5 different manufacturers of ammo, and none of those work. Well, now you go buy 5 different manufacturers with 5 different grains of bullets. Right. None of those work. Or you can just go buy. So my buddy Brady, last year, it was 2017, he went to Sportsman's. The Howa he bought was on sale for $3.25, and then there was like $100 mail-in rebate. So we bought it for like nothing.
Right.
And we developed the same load. He shoots the identical load that I shoot out of my Model 700, that he shoots out of his Howa 1500, has a whip machine muzzle brake, clamp-on muzzle brake on it. And his gun shoots better than mine does.
Oh, really?
It pisses me off. So, and my dad's got, he had Kurt build him a gun off of a Model 700. He had him build him a 300 Win Mag. Put a heart barrel on it, an HS Precision stock on it, you know, had the full deal. Everything's blueprinted. You know, it's a really nice gun. He's got a Night Force scope on it. Brady's frickin' $500 setup shoots better than my dad's custom gun.
Really?
And it's like, you just never know what you're getting, you know. And I had, when we first got that gun, the whip machine brake, they didn't drill the hole right in the center of it, so it was pushing the bullet down. And I kept thinking, like, there's something wrong with this gun. We had a bunch of problems doing this and that, and so I called Howa, and I was talking to one of the machinists in Reno, and he's like, "Man, I'm telling you, you can send it back to me. We'll pay for the shipping, but I'm going to guarantee you it's not this gun. The Japanese make these guns so precise. They're so anal and OCD with these guns. It's not the gun. I'm telling you, it was tested before it was shipped, but we're more than willing to send you a label, you know, do everything you need." Right. Well, so then we got frustrated one day, and I got my bore scope out, and I looked down the barrel, you know, thinking, well, maybe there's some pits or something in the barrel. No. You could, when I went to go put that bore scope in from the muzzle, you could see, you know, the light on the bore scope that the muzzle brake wasn't drilled center. It was slightly off center. So and you couldn't see where the bullet was hitting the muzzle brake. It was just close enough that it was just kept pushing it down. You couldn't hit 100 yards. You run out of up travel in it.
Really?
And So I called Whip Machine, and they're like, "That's possible. We'll send you another one."
Really?
They sent me another one, pulled that one off, put the new one on, and just fix the problem. And he's got under a half-minute group on it.
Perfect.
It's amazing. And let me show you. He's got like $600 into it.
Right.
And it shoots that good. And you can do the same thing with Savage. Savage has the free-floating bolt head on there now, which helps squaring up the bolt head, to the back of your casing. And, there's a lot of stuff that these manufacturers do now where if you want the long-range gun, it's now more available at a cheaper cost, but
right.
a lot of times it's still the same quality.
Well, you see these guys, and I've had these endless conversations with one of my buddies. He's just a gun nut. And we're talking about about doing a shoot-off with all these budget guns. You've got the Ruger Predators,
right?
The Savage Axis, the cheaper Howa 1500s, like the cheap ones. I forget which ones they're called. It might just be 1500. Like a $400 rifle.
Yeah, like you can go down, you can go to Sportsman's right now and buy a Howa 1500. I think any day for, I don't know, between $300 and $450, maybe $500. No more than $500, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, and it seems like on all the tests I've seen, the Ruger Predators are on top for just overall performance out of them. But
sure,
there's plenty of those guys rigging those things up with a good scope, which I agree is more important than the rifle for most folks, and shooting 1,000 yards with a $400 gun.
And even the scope thing. There's so many different manufacturers now that are on board with everybody else that you can get a less expensive scope now and still have the ability. It might not be as clear,
right?
Or especially on a light condition, early morning, late evening type thing, but they track fine. You run them all the way up. You shoot from 200 out to 1,000 and run them back down and do it again, and your impact doesn't change.
Right.
They're still tracking good.
Right.
You're spending $300 on the scope. That's a 5 to 20.
Yeah.
That your buddy laying next to you has a custom gun made, and it's a $2,500 gun, and he's got a $2,500 scope on it. And he's getting frustrated because you're over there like just having fun drinking a beer going, look at this. Yeah, let me shoot your gun. What's the matter with your gun?
Yeah, for a third of the price.
Yeah, that gets frustrating.
You can get those, wouldn't call them a lower end scope, but more like a mid-range scope and like your custom caliber with, BDC information straight from the factory for like, $500, under $500
really?
Nowadays. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and if you're, for me, I wasn't going to go into scopes, but this conversation's leading into scopes. I personally, just because I'm a hunter first, I don't give a really crap about target shooting. I want first focal plane because I'm going to be the guy that forgets to be on 12 power when I'm using my rifle.
Right. Yeah. Now, some of these scopes, like I've got a Vortec long range hunter scope. It's the Viper LR.
HSLR?
HS. So yes, thank you. Yeah, HSLR.
I've got the Viper PST on my.
And it's a 4 to 16.
Yeah.
And the 4 to 16 scope, it has the reticle in it. You can get the different powers with the same reticle. Well, I can use any power and stay on that, and that reticle will keep me accurate.
Yep.
Now, if you go to the 5 to 20, it's only accurate on 18 power, and that 18 is highlighted. If you want, so if you're shooting on 20 power and you miss, and you see where your point of impact is, and you're holding on target, you see where your point of impact is, well, you can't use the hash marks on the reticle because you're not on the right power. You do that on 18 power, well, now you can adjust accordingly. Like, okay, I'm a half minute right, so you can just move a half minute. Boom.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm just a big fan of first focal, and I'll pay for it too.
Right.
I mean, it's worth it for me.
Absolutely.
But for the one that I have is the Viper PST. It's the first long-range scope. It's the only long-range scope I have, and it's been pretty damn good for the money. If you're going to buy a first focal plane on like a Night Force, you're probably $2,000.
Yeah, I think. Well, my dad. It depends on which one you get. My dad bought the it's the SVH, shooting, varmint, hunting. I think is what it stands for. I think he bought that one. It was like 13, maybe. Really? I think you could probably find them.
Was it first focal plane?
Yeah, first
really?
focal plane.
I didn't know they made a cheap first focal
so
plane.
So that's when you turn your power up, your everything stays the same. It just gets closer, right?
Yeah,
Your reticle doesn't come in. And
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that shit's crazy. I can't do that. I had a couple of Bushnell Elites that were second focal plane, and they were in mills with I had the Horus reticle in one of them, and you want to talk about a busy reticle.
Right.
Oh, my God. That whole thing is a grid. Well, it's a grid because it's a lot of military guys use that reticle,
So in your opinion, for somebody starting off, you would go maybe cheaper on the gun, what would be your... If you're trying to build, say, a $1,200 long gun, you could do that, obviously.
Oh.
What would be your recipe for that?
So basically, in the calibers,
Yeah.
pretty much every caliber that model comes in, they're pretty close to the same price. Somebody, unless you're talking like the newer 28 Nosler, or some of these newer calibers, those are going to be a little bit more, but say just a run-of-the-mill 7 mag, 300 Win Mag, 300 short, 243, they're all going to be the same price,
Right.
So, you could get a Savage 110, 111, 116. The 116 is stainless.
I've got one of those. I'm trying to sell it.
Yeah, I'm trying to sell my wife's 116 too. The barrel's too short on it, and I can't get enough muzzle velocity out of it.
Oh, I see.
With Berger 168s, it's only, I think, like 2,700 feet a second because the barrel's so damn short.
Oh, wow.
And I tried shooting 180s out of it, and it was like 25 something. I'm like, what the hell? Well, it's got a super short barrel. Sweet gun, Is
that a 24-incher? Or
22.
Is it that short?
And it's got a muzzle brake on it that's factory that you can turn on and off.
Really?
That's pretty.
Mine doesn't have that.
Well, this is not the new 116 Weather Warriors. This is just the 116.
Oh, I see.
So, and the safety is the back of the action is flat. Your back of your action is rounded. So that's the same thing with his. He bought his for, what was it, $500?
Yeah,
bought it used from a guy for $500.
I'm into mine under just under $1,200.
I'm trying to sell mine brand new for $650.
And he's got the Bell and Carlson, the Viper HSLR,
Nice.
the whip machine muzzle brake, and
Betted the action on
Timney
it. Trigger.
Oh, and put a Timney on it.
Perfect.
Yeah,
That's like what, $150 for the trigger.
I think it's close to $100.
$100
yeah,
bucks
I
for
think
the
there's
trigger.
still $100 for the trigger because
That's
I've got
killer.
on my 300 Win Mag. I got a Timney trigger on it. All the Savages. So when I was with Savage, I had called them and was like, "Hey, I need your target spring." And they'll send you a target spring. So you can buy different springs for it, but they won't do the target spring unless you have, what's that, federal firearms license or something.
Your class 3 or whatever.
They won't send you that spring,
Oh,
but
really?
I got some of those springs which make it, you can go down to 8 ounces with it. And that, I turn it down to 8 ounces just to see. And I'm telling you, on your AccuTrigger, you guys that are listening, if you shoot Savage, you know what the AccuTrigger is. When you go to pull that AccuTrigger back, like as soon as that AccuTrigger comes back and you touch the trigger,
Goes
8 ounces is nothing.
Right.
It's scary. So I was like, no, I'll
8
change
ounces
that.
is scary.
I put that back up. I think now they're all set right around a pound and a half. Right.
See,
in
that's
there.
where I have most of mine, about £1.50.
And that's where I left my Timney. It came set at a pound and a half, and that's where I
Perfect.
left it.
Yeah.
The Howa, Brady's Howa, I took that and backed that thing off, messed with it quite a bit, and then John Rains, he bought a Timney trigger for his Howa. His Howa pounds, just
Really?
so my dad's Howa, Brady's Howa, and Rains' Howa, they just flat out knock shit down.
Really?
I mean, they are impressive. Just and they're all in them under $600-700
Yeah.
with the optics on them.
Yeah, I think in that sleeve there, I've got a Howa 1500 and a 204 Ruger.
I mean, those guns
and
are
it's
freaking
accurate.
awesome. It's crazy.
So accurate.
And
yeah.
it was like, so when John bought that gun, he asked Kurt, what should I buy for this price? He said, get a Howa 1500 and a 7 mag and he uses 7828, Berger 168, 7828. I'm not sure what brass he uses. The only load he's ever made. And it just flat pounds.
Really?
It's amazing.
That's crazy.
And you're in it pretty cheap, but then you see all these long range commercials where, that's out of the box 1,000 yards, well, a lot of those guns, like you said, your mom's got one of those
Yeah, it's like I don't want to say how much you spent on, but it's like
$5,000.
Oh, 9.
Is it?
I think it was closer to
for
9
the whole full package and all that.
She got the rangefinder with it.
Oh yeah, well,
the BR2.
The rangefinder itself's another freaking. That's a whole other topic.
It's like $1,500 for the rangefinder.
Yeah, but that's an awesome rangefinder.
Yeah,
that does more than your phone and another rangefinder can do put together.
Dude, it is legit.
It is impressive.
Yeah.
That's for your straight up. I'm going to try to win a tournament with this. You get a lot of ballistic information off of it.
The windage corrections. That's what, for me, that's my whole problem is I don't shoot enough to be good enough at the windage calling.
Yeah, see me either.
Yeah, and it's like that takes the fun out of it.
I'm like, is the wind blowing? Don't look like it. Let's go.
That's why I love hunting on semi-foggy mornings. It's like, okay, I can see what the wind's doing.
Right. But, like you're asking about the basic platform, you can get any one of those. Even Savage, the 110, 111s, those are the same action. The 116 is the same action. They're just different coatings on the 3 actions is all the difference is. You can get those $500 for the gun, $500-$600 I think. The 116, since they're stainless, obviously are going to be a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure you can get like a 110 or a 111, $400 or $500. You find them on sale sometimes and whatnot. And my son's got one, my daughter's got one, my wife's got one, and they all pound, and it's really cheap. Kept the same stock on it. Didn't change the stocks on any of them. Put a 20 MOA rail on it. And then put so Mason has a Vortec, just the Vortec Viper. I don't even think it's a Viper HD. It's not the LR. It's just a Viper 5-20. It's got doesn't have a target turret on it, but you can take the cap off and you can turn it. Use the app or whatever, however many minutes you need. It's got the reticles inside. My dad's got the same thing on his, and my wife's the same way, and they're in them.
Less than $1,000?
Oh yeah. You're under $1,000 with those.
That's killer.
Because you can get, you can get those scopes for $300, $400. I would much rather spend more money on the optic than the rifle itself.
Same here.
There's a lot to do with that, and not just the scope, but the scope rings. It's like you're going to spend X dollars on the rifle, you're going to spend X dollars on the scope. So now you're to say together you're in at $1,200, $1,000, $900, whatever it is. Why in the hell would you go and buy a $20 pair of rings to put that scope onto that gun?
I'm glad you said that because you can see I got my Wheeler kit up there. You can lap the rings.
I have the same kit. Absolutely,
and love it. Love it.
I've used the shit out of it. I have so many people like, hey, can I borrow your lapping kit? I need to lap some rings. I'm like, dude, there's like $40.
There's no reason to skimp on that, like you said.
No, not at all.
That's a good example to me of something you can do for. I mean, any one of these guns we're throwing around is a good example of just how far you want to take things, but again, you can make a really efficient rifle for not breaking the bank.
Well, it's guys wanting to go buy a $1,200 bow and then go hunting with some Allen broadheads from Weimar. It's like, you can get it done, but why are you cheaping out on that?
Right.
Yep.
And so go over real quick rings and bases, because we're throwing out some terminology here that if we're starting off at basic. You're saying you had a 40 MOA, but
I've got a 40 MOA on my 300 Win Mag, and the only reason that I did that is because like I said earlier, I got this obsession for range. A mile. And I wanted to. I didn't want to have to do any holdover once I ran out of internal travel.
Right.
So put a 40 MOA rail on there. That kind of eliminates that.
Right.
And I still think I'm running out of travel. I'm just shy of a mile with that. But
really?
Still, you can get 0, 5, 10. 40, 20, the most popular one I think is a 20.
That's what I run.
Weaver makes,
yep.
I think you can get a Weaver one for $30. It's an aluminum one. I run Ferrell Industries. My rail's $100. You obviously don't have to have that, but it's all steel. I can take my scope from one gun with the Ferrell rail and put it on another gun with a Ferrell rail and not move my rings at all. It will fit in between each lug just the same as it does on every other one.
Perfect.
So then that's a pretty big deal. They make rings. So if you get Ferrell rings, I don't know how many other manufacturers do this. I'm sure there's some of them. If you get a set of Ferrell rings, and this is who my buddy Stan Pate shoots for Savage. He told me to go with Ferrell. It's what he shoots. I was like, dude, you got gold medals. I'm with it. All right. So they take a solid piece of steel.
Uh-huh.
They drill it, machine it, cut it, and it's one piece. The rear is the rear, the front is the front. You can't switch caps. There is no lapping needed in those. The less expensive ones, or if you take and that's something else, if you get a $200 set of rings, don't put them on a $20 base.
Right.
Don't set them on a $20 base, because just because you got the good rings doesn't mean your base is true. So your rings are lined up. Mm-hmm. And that's what the lapping kit does. The lapping kit is, if you get a base that's not, it's not as accurate, or not so much accurate, but as precise as your rings, or vice versa, you got to put a lapping kit in there and get rid of that. You've done it. You put some lapping compound on there, and you go to town on it. You wipe it all off, and you can start seeing where it wore here and didn't wear here and everything. Right. And you keep going. And if you do that with like a Ferrell, or you can get the Night Force ones. There's so many other manufacturers that make really good rings. Mm-hmm. If you tried that on those, nothing would happen. Everything would be center. It would be perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you're getting. You're paying. You get what you pay for on everything.
Right.
Especially when you're going down this road.
Well, it seems like a lot of the guys that get into it, they don't. They just, like, I was guilty when I got into it. I'm like, 20 MOA, what? And then I'm like, now I got to spend $60, $70 on rings. Mm-hmm. And it's just it just compounds. And so, like buying, or excuse me, bases, and then they do have rings that are, I believe, MOA as well.
You can. Actually, the rings that I have on my 300 Win Mag with the 40 MOA base has Burris rings on it, and you can there's these little plastic shims in there, and you can shim them. You can go 0, 5, and 10,000. I think you might even be able to order different ones online. But I've also shimmed mine up in the back, so I get that much more travel out. Shim it up in the back and down in the front. Mm-hmm. Or you can buy just rings by themselves that are 20,000 or 20 MOA rings.
Right.
And I believe that 1 MOA is pretty equivalent to, I want to say like 10,000ths of an inch or something.
Really?
On your cant. I've heard that somewhere. I haven't really read it or anything. I thought I heard that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But
that's outside of my wheelhouse.
I know that I've heard guys they've taken to get a little bit more before they had canted bases. Mm-hmm. They would take like soda cans and cut them up and stack it underneath the back to raise the back of that up, and you'd get 10,000ths. I think 10,000ths was a minute or 10 minutes or something like that. I think that might have been where that came from. But
interesting.
It's like, you did what?
Yeah. There's some shady shit going on.
Nobody made this shit, so we're inventing it right now.
Right.
Before they came out with the lizard tongue launcher for archery, there were guys, they'd take feeler gauges and they'd drill holes in the feeler gauges and put them on their rest, and then take a file the same diameter as their arrow.
Really?
And Rains taught me this, and when he did this, when he was shooting pins and winning all over the place with pins, he would make a lizard tongue out of feeler gauges. You get the 8,000ths or the 10,000ths thick, and that's what you shoot for target archeries. And he'd get a file and just file a little notch in that thing, and he'd shoot a freaking feeler gauge on his wrist.
That's crazy.
And then Spot Hog put a patent on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's standard now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, the ring thing, I mean, if you don't want to spend a whole lot of money, you don't really have to. But that could be like the difference between your gun's capability and the capability it has with the scope on it.
Right.
You buy that.
Well, I've had the cheap rings, the cheap Weaver rings, like the super cheap ones, and now I go with the tactical Weaver rings. It's got the 3 Allens on each side.
Right. Those
super
are
solid.
Very popular. Yeah. Very popular. Very highly talked about. Recommended. And
I like them.
And, I mean, like, you can get them for like $30, $40,
$60. Yeah, I think.
Like
and I've never had. I mean, I've had scopes move on me with the cheaper ones, and it's probably more prone with a bigger caliber without a break. You start getting that more recoil. You can buy cheap rings with a 22 and be okay.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
But what I've seen, and because I've had the groups that look like an exponential curve, it's because your scope's moving, and so you're just shooting higher and higher and higher and higher every time. It's like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
Been through all that shit.
Oh yeah. When I first started doing this, and I've been doing it, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now, and by no means an expert in any sort of way. I know enough now to get really, really frustrated and want to throw everything away. That's about my knowledge point right there, and when I first started doing it, none of it made sense. Like you said, MOA what? Like, what the hell's an MOA?
Right.
Well, there's 60 minutes and I'm like, you're not making English, bud. Okay, English,
right.
you know.
Well, I remember just when I was starting out, and I just came to a point where I had to choose between bows or guns because I didn't have enough money to go around for both, and I didn't have enough time to be good at both.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm just going to be an archery guy, you know. And so I have a Rock Chucker Supreme downstairs, a reloading kit, brand new setup for like 3 years now.
Right,
like,
and you can get the Rock Chucker kit, the Supreme kit. You can get it comes with a press. You can get there's a couple of different ways you can get the kit. You can get it with the press. They all come with the press. You can get the a scale. You get a hand primer in them. You know, it depends on how big of a kit. You can get the Supreme kit or just the the
smaller
low end kit. You know, but the Rock Chucker that's pretty standard in industry. You know, there's lots of guys there.
Yeah.
Rock Chuckers are everywhere.
My dad's used that since I don't know. It's like the same exact kit he's had, and I remember him having that when I was a kid.
Yeah, my dad has the exact same one that he's had since I was a kid, and mine is identical to his.
Yeah,
you know, and it's it's 10 years old or whatever it is, 5 years old, and so there's a lot of newer presses that are out there from different companies now that I think are just as good as that. You know, everybody's catching on just like the long range stuff with the rifle and the scopes, and it's from one end to the other. Everybody's starting to dabble in everything, whatever they can, make more money with and sell stuff. And
right. Well, I was thinking about because we're all three pretty similar with the bows, and then like the middle ground where you're just going out and hunting with a regular rifle anymore, it presents less of a challenge than hunting at long range. And I know it sounds probably wrong to a lot of people, but
a lot of people think that way. It's
like,
crazy.
dude, it's just too easy. I'm like, then you haven't shot long range, man.
Right. Like you're not getting the point here, bud.
You only get 1 or 2 shots if you're lucky. 2
Right.
shots, and you have to hit bullseye on the first shot. There's none of this shoot at a rock 6 times and then on the 7th try you hit it.
Right.
I mean, you don't get that.
No, and that's something we've all done too. Is there's nothing that's a whole lot more fun than going out in the middle of the day when you're hunting or
some
something.
rocks. Yeah.
Let's go pound some rocks. How far is that one? I don't know. My rangefinder won't pick it up.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's shoot at that one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's like stump shooting with a recurve.
Yeah, that's half the fun of it.
It is.
And there's a lot of benefits from that. And those guys are like, oh, the long range stuff. You guys don't know how to hunt. Da 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 da. Well, me and you both go out and we'll see what happens. Let me show you how I hunt, and you show me how you hunt, and we'll see. Let's see your trophy room. What have you got? You shoot. Yeah, you've got your 3x9 Tasco and on your 30-06 you've had for 50 years.
Right.
And you've killed like 6 bucks. You've been driving down the road and shot one off a cut bank. Cool. That's you.
Yeah.
I don't just buy a gun, buy some ammo, and be like, hey, I'm gonna go kill a buck at 1,200 yards. I mean, realistically, all of the opportunities that I've had at shooting at any game animal, you always think like, man, if I could I want that 500, 600, 700 yard shot, plenty of time to set up. They're not presentable, at least on the west side. Maybe, Eastern Oregon, Colorado and stuff where it's a lot more open and flatter than it is over here. Those opportunities aren't there that often.
Right.
You're shooting. The first buck that we killed together, it was 300-yard shot, and that was straight downhill, 300 yards smoked. He killed one this year. It was like 75 yards. Mason's killed a couple, and they're like 200 yards, 300 yards. Everything has always been under 300. I did have an opportunity. The buck that he killed this year, I found him at like 550, and I'm watching him going, and I dialed my turret up to 550, and I'm ranging him. I'm going, you guys see him? He's like, I don't see him. I'm like, he's going in the timber. Screw it, I'm shooting. And I let it fly because I couldn't wait any longer. He was going to disappear.
That's the thing, is they just disappear in the
Right.
topography we're hunting. Yeah. You don't have time to go get it to that closer ridge, get 300.
Right.
The animal's going to be gone, and the topography and the
Right.
type of brush, timber, everything you put together.
Well, in a blacktail, that could be the only day he's out in the daylight.
Exactly.
It's very true. Very
It's
true.
a rarity.
Yeah.
But,
So.
And there's a lot of those guys that get really aggravated with the long range thing. I don't just go out and shoot, see if my rifle's dialed in, the day before rifle season starts.
Right.
Like, a lot of guys do that shoot from the pickup, I'm shooting 200 or 300 rounds a year. I'm reloading constantly. I'm constantly buying bullets and buying powder and buying primers. You know, you look in my reloading room and I've got 15 pounds of H1000 and Rotumbo and RL22 and, you know, IMR 4350. I've got 5,000 Federal 215 primers sitting down there, and I got stacks of dies, brass everywhere. You know, it's not like I just grab this stuff and go, you know, do whatever. I shoot a lot, you know, and that's the same thing. You know, a lot of these bow hunter guys, they go out and they shoot their bow twice, 3 times before the season starts, and they're like, "Oh man, I made a perfect shot and he got away." And it wasn't a perfect shot. You know, it's the same thing with a rifle. Same thing with a rifle. Oh, I shot him. I mean, just right behind the shoulder, broke both shoulders, you know, whatever it may be, and we never found him. Well, it wasn't that good of a shot then. You know, I don't know about you, but every time I've shot one and I've broke both front shoulders or shot right behind both front shoulders, the son of a bitch is dead.
Right.
It can't be not dead. You know, there's vitals up there that with a rifle especially, it just makes jello out of that stuff.
Right.
You know, oh, it was a perfect shot. No, you know why? Because you don't shoot. You know, you don't do that stuff. And, you know, long-range hunting, you put those two together, long range and hunting, and I think it does present more of a challenge.
Yeah, I'm more impressed with a guy shooting a deer at 1,000 yards than I am at 150. And it's not like archery. I'm more impressed by a 20-yard shot than I am a 100-yard shot. You know, because to me that's archery.
Right.
But rifle hunting, it's like, man, you know, cool, you got within 200 yards, but that guy that just shot one bullet at that animal at 800, he's probably working his craft more.
Right.
You know?
And that's something that I guarantee if you go and talk to that guy, at least the majority of those guys,
right?
Not all of them, but the majority of them, you're going to have a pretty long conversation about load data and load testing. And what bullets are you using? What gun did you try this with? You know, and it's going to go on and on and on before you know it. You know, you guys are talking, then you end up going shooting together or something. Right. You know, I mean, those guys, they put a lot of time and effort into what they're doing.
Right. And for the guys that are going out and getting it done with a 3x9, that's nothing wrong with that. They probably they could very possibly have better woodsmanship skills than the guy shooting them at 1,000. It's just so many different factors.
Right.
You know, like a trad hunter versus a compound hunter probably has better woodsmanship skills, probably has better stalking skills. He's going to have to get closer.
Sure.
You know, it's just anybody can judge anybody that uses anything unless you're using your hands. You know, and a knife, or you're that dude that chokes that cougar out.
And for that you're jogging, you're just like,
you're just jogging.
Chokehold, bitch, what now?
Yeah, so to all of us, that guy's the primitive one, and, you know, it doesn't matter if you use a trad bow. You're not primitive as that guy, choking out freaking cougars with your bicep.
No, you're a freaking stud if you do that shit. Yeah, you deserve a medal or something. I
am going to try and get that guy on the show.
That would be cool.
It'd just be a cool conversation.
Yeah, like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
So...
Don't show me, but, like, tell me about it.
your sweet solvent up there.
Oh, yeah.
That's sweets, right?
That is sweet 762 solvent, yeah.
So that's another, I don't know if you want to get into that or not, but the cleaning part of your gun, you know.
That's important, too, because, I mean, we should, because when I blew one of my rifles up, I had brass fouling just everywhere, and I cleaned it unless you use the right solvent,
right?
Copper or brass, copper, whatever.
Copper solvent.
Copper solvent.
I know what you're talking about.
I didn't get that fouling clean or whatever until I used that solvent, and I ran so many patches through it.
Right.
So.
As long as you're running patches through it and you're still getting blue on the patch, you're still got a lot of copper in there.
Yeah.
You know, and that was something else. When we first got into this, I was like, man, you know, I just cleaned this gun, and what the hell?
Yeah.
Well, your clean barrel doesn't shoot like a fouled barrel does, and you know, that's a whole nother freaking category.
Right.
You know, not that I know a lot about it, I just know that it exists.
Right.
You know, and there's a couple of different solvents that I use to get the copper out. There's, you know, a bunch of different manufacturers now for that. You know, and but there comes a point where you develop a load and you start shooting it, and you're shooting well with it, and you get in, you know, 40, 50 rounds, and it starts opening it up, and then you're like, well, last time I cleaned this son of a bitch was.
Right.
Then you go and you run some copper solvent through there, and it's just like blue.
Yeah,
blue,
exactly.
Blue. Holy shit, blue. Like, maybe it was more than 50 rounds, you know? Like, you just forget about it. And
I was guilty of cleaning my rifle too much, because I was doing a lot of research with long range guys, and like, yeah, I only clean mine, this rifle so many X shots, this so many X shots. I was cleaning mine like every time I went shooting, I was cleaning it. Right. A lot of guys don't do that because you don't have to.
And that's something that I learned from Stan as well. Is he said 50 shots.
Yeah.
I'm like, 50? He's like, 50.
He's
like,
I
reload. I got my box of reloads holds 50 rounds. Shoot that box, clean it. If you don't shoot that box, and this guy, he knows down to the one round how many rounds have been through that barrel, in its lifetime. And there's some guys you're going to trust for information. There's some other guys that's like, did you just watch a YouTube video on how to get this done? like, how did you figure out this part of life?
Right, right. Well, that's another good point is, for guys that like to shoot a lot, I hear the 28 or 26s and the 28s go through barrels pretty quick. Nozzlers, Rems go through barrels quicker.
I think any of the hotter ones are good.
Yeah, and so if you're starting off, maybe a smaller caliber might be good for you, or like a 6.5 or a 243 or something like that.
And that's another huge debate too. Is you start on Facebook. There's a whole page. A group 6.5 Creedmoor guys.
Right.
I want a 6.5.
Uh-huh.
I think the ballistics on them are pretty cool.
They're great. Yeah.
I think it's a cool gun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really give a shit if you don't like it or not. If you got a bunch of bad shit to say about it, I don't care.
Right.
It's what I like. It's what I want to build. And there's enough popularity of now that all that stuff's readily available.
Right.
Like the 28 Nosler, it's still like a 338 Edge. Finding a 338, finding a 300 Ultramag brass to make 338 Edge out of is difficult. Or if there's already 338 Edge brass, to getting a hold of it is very difficult.
Right.
But 338 Lapua, it's, you're paying $275 for 100. The Lapua brass themselves. I shot Hornady brass, which is, I think it was $80 for 50 or something, and my gun didn't shoot worth a shit. I switched to Lapua brass, and bam, there it was.
Really?
It was amazing. And I was like, that was my second Lapua. And I happened to have 3 brass that I loaded that was with Lapua brass, and I shot those 3, and I was like, no way. Holy shit, look at the back of the brass. That's a Lapua brass. So then I immediately go home, you load a bunch more, and you start shooting with Lapua brass. And I think I've got... I bought 100 of them, so I bet I've got 90 left. I think I've only broke 10, and that's
really?
After 6 shots, 6 reloads out of those.
Oh, wow, you're getting that many of them, huh?
Some of them are, the ones I was burning up hotter, during load testing, I was getting 4 out of, or 5. The Hornady brass, I got a lot of reloads out of those. I've got some out of my 7 mag that are on like 7 and 8.
Oh, wow.
Those are more like for fouling or just going and shooting at steel. I missed a buck a few years ago, and
repeat that one more time.
I said, yeah. Along that story, how do you know when a piece of brass has had enough shots? Tell the story.
Well, there's 2 different. There's a couple of different ways you can look at that. I missed a buck quite a few years ago with a Savage, and I take a Sharpie and I make a mark across the primer onto the neck of the brass, or the base of the brass, and however many loads I put on there, that's how many marks are on there. So when you pop the primer out, you put a new primer in, that marks off the primer, so you can count them. Well, it split all the way down from the neck all the way down the shoulder.
Oh.
It was like a 100-yard shot, chip shot, kneeling down, not offhand. I was knelt down, on my knee, and buck runs off. I'm like, what the fuck? Jack another round in there quick. Shoot again. We got in the pickup, ran around, see if we couldn't find him again. And I went down there. I was like, oh, shit, I forgot my brass. Let's go get my brass real quick. Oh. So I went down there and got my brass, and it's cracked right down the side of it. And I was like, mother. Or there's another one on my 300 Win Mag. It'll blow the back of the brass off.
Okay.
And that'll blow it. So you pull the bolt out of there, and you get like a little dental pick, and you pull the rest of it out of there or something, But a lot of times, so some of my guns, I only neck size, and some of my full length size. The ones that I'm full length sizing seem to not get as many reloads out of them as just the neck size ones. Because you're bending that brass back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Whereas the neck sizer, you're only just squeezing the neck just to hold the bullet.
Okay.
You know, and it's a 2000s neck extension on there.
Yeah.
So I think I've kind of paid attention to that a little bit too. So I don't know. Just
well, there's just a lot.
There's
to
so
learn.
much, and I've got notepads of just random shit that I wrote down. I look back through and I'm like, what does that even mean? You know, like, oh, I remember that. Yeah, right. You know, I remember this. And
well, if anybody takes anything from this episode, it would, for me, it would be like you don't have to go expensive on the gun.
You really don't.
I mean, you can cut corners and still shoot 600, 700 yards pretty easily.
You know, there was a Vortec commercial that came out, I think last year. They came out with a Vortec Tactical. It was a 3 to 9 or a 3 to 12 or something, 4 to 12, something like. I think it was a 3 to 9. My buddy Brady bought one and put on his gun. And so these guys take this, I think it was like a 6.5 or a 243 or something on a Ruger American that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Put this scope on there, find a Hornady load, just went and bought a Hornady brass or, factory ammunition, whatever it may be, threw it on there, and dude was hitting like 7 out of 10 at $1,000,
really?
with all this factory stuff.
Yeah.
And he shot it through a chronograph a couple of times and then entered some stuff in an app and changed a couple of things, and, ended up hitting like 7 out of 10 at $1,000. Once you have the right dope in there,
right.
Well, you're 6 inches high. You're 6 inches high. Hey, move your shit. Don't be afraid to move it. That's why they're on there.
Right.
And, and I think that scope now you can get in a 5 to 20 or something. They made another one now that you can get, and it's still like a $300 scope, Optics, not the greatest optics, still a great scope. Vortec has a really awesome warranty. Brayden, his binoculars weren't quite perfect, so he just threw them down in front of UPS, went inside, freaking sent them back, and they sent him a brand new pair. Because he was afraid that if they weren't just quite perfect, that they weren't going to send him a new pair. Right. So he's like, bam, on the concrete, sent it back, and they sent him a new pair, which is cool. My Leicas.
I deny that story.
Yeah, Vortex is listening. This is fiction.
Right.
Hey, shout out to their VIP unlimited
it is freaking awesome.
Unwavering
it's the only
warranty,
one in the business that does that.
I've used it too, and
I bought
it's a good warranty.
I traded my Vortec, my Razor spotting scope, my compact Razor. I had a straight and I wanted an angled. Well, so I put on Facebook on one of these groups, hey, anybody got an angle they want to trade for it straight? And this guy's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. It's like, perfect. He sent it to me. I got it. He had the whole package and everything. I had the box and took it all apart and we put it in the box, and so I screwed the eyepiece on there and I'm looking through it. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this thing? I was like, hey, did this thing work when you sent it to me? He's like, yeah, it worked fine. Why? I was like, well, I put it back together and now it's not zooming. It goes black and doesn't work quite right and this and that. And he's like, I swear to God, man, I was like, hey, no big deal. It's a Vortec. I'll send it back.
Right.
Hey, send it back. I got it back in like a week and a half. And it was fixed. They put a brand new eyepiece in there and everything. So, and they didn't ask any questions.
Perfect.
I printed off the deal on off the computer and I sent it with them. With the, I had this one, I traded it for this one, and this is the problem with this. They sent it back to me and said, here you go.
Yep.
Thank you.
That warranty makes it really easy to you just break down and make that investment in some glass when it's unconditionally warranted.
Yeah.
And I can't do that with my Leicas. I bought my Leicas used. I've got a pair of 1042s and a pair of 1250s. Since I bought those used from a friend who brought them brand new, that's not transferable. And even then, I think they're only a 5-year warranty or something.
Really?
Yeah, it's not like I'm not sure what the Swarovski is either, but I'm pretty sure it's close to the same thing. It's not like a lifetime.
I'll be darned. Yeah, I know. I had Steiners before binoculars, and they have a lifetime.
And sort of loopholes but those higher ends. But now, I mean, the Vortec razors, you look through those, there's a lot of Vortec haters and there's a lot of Vortec lovers,
there are,
of pretty much everything anymore,
right.
And, mine's better than yours, type deal,
right.
But I really don't give a
We just got to know what you're buying. Their higher end stuff is really nice.
It is.
But you get their lower end stuff, it's lower end stuff.
Right.
I've been using Diamondbacks and it's just about done with them.
Right, and a Diamondback is a $250, $300 pair of binoculars.
I think like $200.
Yeah,
it's cheap.
So if you take a $200 pair of binoculars, your Diamondbacks, you take a pair of $200 pair of Bushnells, you take a $200 pair of whatever Nikons, and you look through all of them. One of those is going to be the better of $200. You go to a $500 pair of binoculars.
Same thing.
It's the same thing. You go to an $800 pair. You go to now the difference between an $8 and $1,000 pair. It gets harder to tell, but there's still a difference.
Right.
And that's something that took me a long time to really figure out. And one argument that I've always had, I like my high end binoculars. Well, I can see just as good as with those as I can with these. Well, you know what? If you can, don't spend the money then. Shut the fuck up.
Right.
Why you even bothering? I'm just telling you what I feel is I'm getting out of these.
I know for a fact I can spot more animals with higher end glass. I mean, I know for a fact.
There's less eye fatigue.
Exactly.
It's more crisp. I mean, I bought Mason a pair of the
Vipers?
Viper. Yeah, the Viper 1042s. And then so for Christmas he got a pair of Viper 1042s, and my dad's like, well, do we need to get him a bino harness? And I was like, yeah, let's look at some bino harnesses. This son of a bitch came with a bino harness.
Really?
and we didn't get him one for Christmas, and not knowing that I was going to just wait and get it for him for his birthday, before bow season starts in August.
Perfect.
And the Vortec came with not their $100 one, but it's like the $50 one. It came with the frickin' bino harness. I was like,
that's pretty cool.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. My bino harness, I get made fun of all the time because my bino's like 2 sizes too big for my bino.
So they're all stuffed in there?
Yeah, they're just like stuffed in there, and the cord's like stretched to the max to try and hook it around the thing. And even the guys that made it, like, dude, you need to get new bino. I'm like, I need or they tell me I need to get a new pouch. I'm like, that or new binos.
Yeah.
To fit the pouch.
Yeah.
But so yeah, there's a lot of good points in this one. Glass is, I think, more important. I think we agreed on that.
Absolutely. Spend the money. And there's nothing wrong with buying a used rifle.
Yeah.
For the most part, guys that own rifles, that is their baby, especially if they grew up, rifle hunting with their dads with the old school wood stock, straight up blued barrels that were cleaned every time they took them out, wiped down, turned upside down in the gun safe or just the gun case, the cabinet, so with the glass in front of it so you can admire them. They're turned upside down because they're afraid the oil is going to leak down into the wood.
Right.
And it's going to swell the wood. Well, if you're putting that much oil on it, you got some issues.
Right.
So for the most part, used guns are.
Yeah.
I mean, my Model 300, my Model 700 to 300 Win Mag, it's a used gun, and I made it what it is. There's not a thing wrong with it. Sometimes I'm like, I think this barrel's shot out, and I go out again. I'm like, nope, it's good. So
right.
There's really nothing wrong with getting a used rifle.
I bought my rifle used.
Bought his used.
Built it how I wanted it.
And it freaking pounds.
Yeah.
And
a lot of guys get hung up in the just the product gear game and just I'm using this, I'm using that, and for me, it's just. I was getting asked back when I was in the long range stuff. I was getting asked a lot of questions because I started the Long Range Hunters of Oregon page.
Oh, okay.
Mainly because I wanted to learn. Like I wanted to get guys in there that I could pick their brains anytime I wanted. And there's only probably around 1,600 guys in that group. But since I started the group, I must know what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm like, dude, pick that guy's brain. Like I started this to learn.
Right.
Right. And but my thing is like I'm using I'm into my setup. $1,500. You don't have to be in your setup $1,500.
Not
you don't
at
have
all.
to. You can do more. You can do less. It's just, and then the calibers thing. I'm gonna have to have a whole episode on calibers because
you could have a week's worth of episodes on calibers.
You could talk a week about 308 versus 6.5.
Right, and there's going to be guys that are just going to chew your head off because you even mentioned a 6.5. And there's a good chance that guy can't even shoot.
Yeah,
he just likes what he read.
I don't understand why people have things against the caliber. It's like that caliber didn't come over and beat your cat. Like
right.
It didn't
exactly.
I
saw a
don't
thing
get
on
it.
Facebook the other day that said, "Okay, here we go. What's the best caliber for elk?" I was like, "Oh shit!" And I just looked at the comments.
Once
it was
a
like,
week.
it was like.
Just
250 comments, and I'm like,
yeah.
Why do you even lead into that?
I'm not sure if they're trolls or if those legitimate questions. Because what's the best bow on the market, best broadhead, best rifle? What's the best
endless.
Everything. When I see what's the best, I just immediately keep scrolling.
Right?
Exactly.
Do you like? Is your Chevy better than my Ford?
Exactly.
It's that kind of question.
Like, nope, my Dodges. You know, like, you got the guy from left field coming over here. And you got that other guy. He's like, not screw you guys. My Willys will beat both those. You know?
Yeah.
It's
well, how
just,
about instead of being an asshole about it, you just be like, hey, so let me ask you a question about your stuff. You know?
Yeah.
And just, you know, you don't got to be a dick
yeah,
about everything.
For me, I want you to show me ballistically why that is a better round. And
why does it work better for you?
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
That's a good point, too.
Why is it ballistically better? You know, in what situation? What's the best round for elk?
Right.
The one that you hit in the frickin' lungs.
Yeah.
That's the best one.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I think there's been more elk in the world shot with a 243 than any other caliber.
That's how I shot my first elk.
There has been
30-06.
Yeah, 243, 30-06, 7 mag. But I really do. I believe hands down that from all the stuff that I've heard and stuff that I've read, you know, throughout the years and, you know, some of the older stuff that I've read, that the 243 has killed more elk than any other caliber on the planet.
That's crazy. I never would have guessed that.
And
I would have figured, like an old school 30-06 or a 270 or something.
Well, I mean, a 243, you could take a 22 mag at 100 yards. You can shoot an elk in the rib cage, put a hole through both of his lungs, and guess what? They're going to fill up with blood and he's going to die.
Right.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
That's legitimate.
It is. No,
You know,
and I just feel like a lot of guys, what the question should be is what is the terminal distance that you can kill something? Like, how far can you shoot and that bullet will still do its job? Because, a lot of guys are thinking calibers, but they're completely missing the projectile. Well, if you're using a core lock at 1,200 yards, first of all, I've shot core locks at 1,200 yards. Don't do it.
With a group about this
big. I was chronoing
Exactly.
each shot, and there was like 100 or 200 feet difference
200 feet per second difference
between each round.
Each load. Well,
and so you got one 4 feet high, one this low.
when they're mass produced like that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Hey,
so-
there's a lot of guys that shoot those that can get a minute and a half, and they don't shoot out past 100 yards. They got their 3 to 9 on there. I mean, if you're shooting a minute, even if you're shooting 2 minutes at 100 yards, I mean.
Right. Well, how many guys, here's a point, how many guys will put their rifles, you know, they want to hit bullseyes, but my dad and I are guilty of doing this, and they'll put it 2 inches high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you say? I've had so many clients, so many of them. I'm like, okay, that's I need to know for my reference point. So when I'm helping you aim at something, I need to know when I'm telling you the yardage where to hold on this thing.
Yeah.
So where do you sight your gun in at? Oh, I'm an inch high at 100. I'm 2 inches high at 100. I'm dead on at 200. You know, whatever it may be. I'm 3 inches high at 100.
Right.
Do you know what 3 inches high at 100 is? Well, it's 300 yards. No, it's not. It's not. I mean, it's probably pretty close. And some situations, some scenarios, it's probably pretty close, but it's really not. So, but like the 1 inch high at 100, the most common one, you know, at 200 yards, hey, hold right on it. You know, hold just top of lungs or whatever.
Right.
You know, but most of those guys, from my experience, I've had a lot of hunters that, you know, they're out there paying a bunch of money and they've got the top quality gear that, you know, they've got all the Sitka this, Sitka that, fancy backpacks, fancy boots, and miss $3 at 60 yards, you know, and it's like,
What are you doing?
Did you shoot at all in the last 50 years you've been alive?
Right. Right.
You just paid $5,000 to come on this hunt and you can't hit shit. You know, it's like, are you nice and steady? Yeah, I'm good. I'm not twitching. And you're you know, it's kind of hard to tell what their scope picture is looking like, what their sight picture is. You kind of look at the muzzle and see if it's moving at all, you know, or see if, you know, they're getting super excited. You know, there's some couple of things you can tell. But I've had some guys that are just super laid back, super calm. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm on him. Okay, whenever you're ready, go ahead and squeeze. Just squeeze. Take your time and squeeze. Not even close. Like, you hit 3 feet behind him. He's 100 yards. I can shoot him with a pistol offhand. You know, like, come on, bud.
That reminds me of a situation we had. My dad took a kid out for his youth tag, and my buddy's little brother had a youth tag, same tag, cow tag. And this kid had gone shooting with me. This is back when I was shooting long range a lot, and I had my 308. I still have my 308 VTR with the Viper PST on it, and using, I think, 150-something grain SSTs. I think 155s or something like that. Might have been 150s. I don't know. And anyways, we've been spanking targets at like 600, 700, 800 yards consistently. Even with the Superformance factory loads from Hornady, we were doing pretty damn good. And so time comes, and the cow steps out at 567. And I dialed right to it, and I'm like, how do you feel? He's like, oh, yeah, like that's totally in my wheelhouse. And I'm like, all right. So I had him take a couple dry fires on it. Cows chewing her cud, standing around.
Done that a lot.
And then, long story short, first shot smokes it. Just, you couldn't have poked your finger better on it. I'm like, I was so proud of the kid. And, cow goes 10 yards, and I'm like, put another one in it. And then before he could even put another one in it, I think it fell over dead, just right there, 10 yards. And guys are like, oh, you shot an elk with a 308 at 567? That's so irresponsible. I'm like, what? You're kidding me. I'm like, okay, the bullet stopped right under the hide, right on the other side of the shoulder.
Right.
It just clipped the the scapular part there.
Right.
I literally took the skin, cut the skin out, and then had the bullet right there and gave it to him and everything. But where I'm going with this story is my dad's kid was farther behind us down the road, and so I call him like, there's another cow right here. Let's do it. Gun's already dialed in. Just get him behind it. He spent, I think, 13 shots. Couldn't. I mean, he ended up finally. Poor cow was shot 4 times. But
there was a gal that we had in New Mexico. She shot 27 times. This bull was a fucking cheese grater, dude. It was so bad. Like she ran out of ammo. I had to drive 10 miles back to the lodge to go get more ammo and then come back.
Say I didn't even carry that much ammo on me. In the field.
I'm like, I got 10 rounds. I've got what's in my gun, and whatever I have equals 10. That's all I carry.
Really?
I mean, if something happens, I can shoot at a rock and fix something or something, but so she shoots 27 times.
With a rest?
She was on a fucking backpack, laid down on a backpack, and her brother's behind her filming this thing.
Oh, Jesus!
And we're on a 350 plus ranch. This is a $10,000 hunt.
Jesus!
And there's like a $2,500 kill fee or something. And not only did she shoot 27 times, when this bull dies finally, like the neck all the way down to the front of the shoulders was hanging into this fucking ravine that we would have never, ever got this bull out of. So, we couldn't pull it out. We tried pulling on it, and we just couldn't get it. Couldn't get its antlers. It's dangling. So I 4-wheel drive my truck down there, and I got a fucking ratchet strap in the back of the truck. So I hook onto the back of that, hook it to a tow hook, and I drug that son of a bitch backwards up somewhere where we could finally get it all taken care of.
Holy smokes!
And it was.
Well, it's about the shooter. A lot of it is about the shooter, and if you're spending just like bows, it's no different in bows. If you're spending, 16, my setup last year, I think I've said it was like $2,400. I could be one of those guys that goes out and has a cool bow and has all his cool shit, but has no skills or no work ethic, and I just want to have all the nicest stuff. If you don't put in the work to make that worth it,
you're not going to do.
What's
anything.
the point,
And
that's kind of where I was heading with all that. But yeah, I mean, you're going to have guys out there that have all the cool stuff but can't make a shot.
The first rifle hunter I had in New Mexico, he shot at this bull. It was like 360 or something. I remember. I got it all on video. His wife was videoing this. He was an older guy. I think he was in his mid 60s or something. And he's got all these pictures and stories of killing, lots of stuff. And I'm just like, this is gonna be fun, And his wife's videoing. She's got my video camera. She's videoing it. And we get up here and we find this bull. The outfitter's like, hey, you go down here to this road, and there you come around this really sharp hairpin corner. There's an old 2-track wagon road that goes out there. Go out there, and so we got out there and shut the truck off, roll down the window, and you just hear bulls bugling. I was like, no way. Get out, and it gets daylight, and you just this cloud of dust. And we're on the same 350 plus ranch, and there's a couple, 5 or 6 320 bulls just satelliting, and some littler bulls, and it was a herd of like 40. 30 of them. And so we have to wait for them. It's all sage and stuff. There's nowhere for us to go. We just happen to park behind this knob where they never saw us, and they take off up and over. So we hustle up and get over the top, and I range this bull. And I was like, okay, it's like 360, on this backpack. And he's like, yeah, that's no problem. I got this. Shooting a 300 Win Mag. And I was like, all right, whenever you're ready, just go ahead and squeeze. The bull's standing there. He's just screaming his head off, just standing there looking around, not walking at all. Dude shoots. Hits like fucking 6 feet right, 10 feet high.
Jesus.
And I hear, I'm bleeding, and I look down at him, and he lays his eye wide open. And I look back up at the bull, and I was like, you got to shoot at it again. He's leaving. And then the bull stops again, and his wife's like, you better not miss this time. It's like, I got it all in video. It's great. And so he lays down again. no clue where this bullet hits. Not even remotely. I mean, it was dusty. That's how, it's super dusty.
Yeah.
I couldn't even see where the bullet hit. And he's like, ugh. And so he scopes himself twice.
Oh.
And his wife's name was Patricia, called her Pat, and his name was Bob. And they called themselves the Bob and Pat Show. It was a show for 8 days.
Really?
It was a show for 8 days with these two people. And she's like, come on, Bobby. You got to suck it up, Bobby. Get up, Bobby. He's got to suck it up. And the whole time she's got my video camera on record, but she's holding it down here when she's yelling at her husband. Like, you suck, dude. Like, what's your problem? And so she's like, oh, it's still recording, and puts it back on. And well, now we got the blood, all taken off his face. No joke, dude. You could see up here, around here, right here, a circle. You could connect the dots, and it was a perfect circle from his scope. Both shots got him good. And so she's like, Bobby, we can't be doing this stuff anymore. You got to figure this out, Bobby. We paid a lot of money for this hunt, and so we got on several other bulls that week.
Yeah.
Poor Bobby.
I hope Bobby doesn't listen to this episode.
And so, and the next week I get this older guy. He was in Vietnam. He was a sniper in Vietnam, and he's telling me all these stories about, he's like, oh, these guys used to smoke these cigarettes, and I'd wait for that cherry to light up, and I'd just shoot at the cherry, and just pop their heads right off their shoulder, and guy drank like a fifth of Jack a night, just freaking wasted, and he went on like 5 of these hunts a year, just loaded, owned like 200 dump trucks, and
holy smokes,
just owned a pretty good business. And so it comes down to it, and we've been chasing this one bull. He passed him up opening morning of the hunt. First morning, it was like 100 yards, and we just hear him screaming, and it was the same one that Bobby missed. And it ended up after I left, I went from there to Colorado for the next hunt to guide over there. Well, another guy in the outfitting guide, he killed that bull, and it was 383.
Really?
So this bull comes walking through this all these sagebrush bushes and stuff, and I'm videoing it, and I'm like, okay, here he comes. I'm like, shoot him. And he looks at me, and he's like, are you sure that's the one? And so I put the camera down, I pick up my binos, I'm like, yeah, that's him. He's like, are you sure? And the bull walks off. So, and this is the same herd, there's like 30 or 40 elk in this herd. So they walk up and over the top of this little knob, back to the same spot where Bobby missed. The same exact big opening, but they went farther. They hopped the fence onto some other private off our ranch. And I get up there, and I set my spotting scope up there, and I was like, here, look at this. How about this bull? And he's like, that's what I'm looking for. I'm like, you just passed that bull up. He's like, no fucking way. I'm like, he's like, well, how am I supposed to know? I got some fucking punk kid out here guiding me.
Oh.
You're like, what, 28, 29 years old? How do I know you know what you're doing? I said, because you're paying me to know what I'm doing.
Right.
I said, from now on, when I tell you to shoot, you shoot. And he's like, fine, whatever. So like two nights go by, and we chase this herd, and they kind of run off. So we quit pressuring them, and we go and sit up on top of this huge rock knob, and it's like you can see for miles. And we get down after dark, get back into the truck, and he opens the doors of the truck. I open the back. I had an extended cab Chevy, and it's got the suicide, the back doors.
Yeah.
So take my pack off, and I set it on the seat, and he takes his pack off, sets it on the seat, and he backs into the passenger side, and he leans into the truck and puts the barrel down on the floorboard. And I'm like, hey, do that out. Boom, dude, and shoots a hole in the floorboard of my pickup.
Seriously.
Dude, 300 Win Mag. You should see what it does to the carpet and the floorboard. It blew through the floor mat, and a bunch of shit went out. And it went through, didn't hit a thing all the way down, and
lucky.
Went over there, I'm looking around, and in the sand, it's all super sandy right there. And I find the bullet, and I was like, well, at least you shot a 4-point, or at least you got a 4x4. And he's like, you did what? I was like, you got a 4x4. My truck's 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed, so bad. So then he's like, I'm telling you, man, you find me a bull, I'll shoot it. Just tell me where to shoot. And we end up belly crawling for a couple hundred yards on the last morning of the hunt, and we find this bull, the 383. I'm like, it's the one pushing the cows over the fence. Same spot that Bobby missed. I'm like, he's pushing the cows over the fence. Are you on him? And this is like right at daylight. And I range him, and it was like 3 1/4. I was like, yeah, I'm on him. All right, shoot him. Boom, boom, whop. I'm like, yeah. Shoot him again. Boom, boom, whop. I'm like, he's still running. Shoot him again. Boom, boom, whop. He's like, he's dead. I'm like, no, he's running. Dude shoots like a 320 bull. Dude shoots the wrong bull. He's broke off on the right side. He shoots the wrong bull. I'm like, that's not the right bull. He's like, we walk over there and get up to it, and he's like, how much is it going to cost me to put in the fucking ditch and go chase another one? Because I ain't paying for that. I didn't pay this much money for this bull. And he was, he wasn't being serious, but kind of serious. He was pretty pissed off. But
yeah, it's his fault.
I knew that when I told him to shoot at something, he was one of those guys that I knew that I felt 100% confident that when I said shoot that, he's going to put a bullet in it.
Yeah.
And sure as shit, it was 325 yards. He just shot the wrong one.
Well, you think you could tell the difference between a 380 and a 320. But.
Yeah, especially when that one's horning the freaking cows over the fence, and that one's not.
Yeah.
That one was by itself.
Just got too excited.
Oh, dude. I mean, just ecstatic. And it was still a 320 bull. Broke off, it scored 320.
Bigger than any bull I've ever killed.
Dude, I've never killed one over 300. I've got a couple Roosevelt. I got one at 298.
Oh, really? That's a good bull.
And
it was with a bow, right?
Yeah, I've never killed a bow. I've never had a rifle elk tag. That's something I want to do is kill a bull with a rifle, and but yeah, it was like we were talking about those guys that know that when they shoot, they're going to hit something.
Yeah.
That guy, I knew when he shot, he was going to hit it.
Yeah.
I had no doubt in my mind after listening to all the stories. Like, you're smoking cigarettes in the middle of the night in the jungle. Like, you're going to kill a bull when I tell you to.
Right. Yeah. One about my buddy, my hunting partner, I talk about him all the time. Mitch is that with a gun. And then I'm, for him, it's kind of like, okay, Garrett, you got the bows, but let me make the shots with the guns, And time after time, man, it's like, you didn't make that shot. He's like, I shot. I hit it. I was like, cocky. You're cocky. And then there it is, dead right there. It's like, all right, exactly where the bull said I don't get it. I mean, that's why I switched to bows, because I just got to the point where I couldn't make a shot with a gun.
Well,
unless it was long.
I think that's another reason why I started shooting so well, doing long range and being able to tell, like you just said, your buddy was like, oh, I hit it. I know I did. Well, doing tournament archery has got to a point where I know when I make a good shot and I know when I make a bad shot. Like, the other night at League, I made a bad shot. I freaking missed, I wasn't doing very well. I shot at like a 96 or something, and I wasn't holding well, and I changed a bunch of stuff. Well, I know when I make a good shot and I know when I make a bad shot.
Yeah.
Same thing with a rifle, man. You're shooting long range. You know when you make a good shot. You know when you make a bad shot.
Right.
There's lots of times where I'll pull the trigger and it's like, that was a bad shot.
Right.
And he can almost tell you where it's going to hit too, without even looking at it. That's the difference
that one
in that
right.
experience.
Right.
Yeah, you know where
I know
it's
where that scope went black at. From the recoil.
Yeah.
I can tell you, like, smoked. Like, no question. Or nope, not that time.
Well, is there any closing thoughts? We're at an hour and a half here, guys. What do you want to leave with?
Don't be afraid to try new things.
Yeah.
If you're questioning on how much money to spend, don't go out of your budget just to get a cool factor into that. There's so much stuff available now, where you don't have to spend a whole lot of money.
Right.
I mean, $1,000 seems like a lot, but like I said earlier in the podcast, Brady got his, he bought it around Christmas time, and he got it on sale with a rebate, and I think with the scope and the brake and everything put on it. I think he's only into it like $500 or $600. Six, maybe no more than $7. I'll say no more than $7. And there's a lot of opportunities nowadays where you can buy that stuff and not have to go, oh, I can't afford a long range gun.
Right.
And the second would be practice. Don't expect to go out there right out of the gate and just pound steel time after time after time again at 1,000 yards. You're going to be batting 500 right out of the gate, with
regardless of what
setup.
gun you have.
Right. Regardless
starting out
with what caliber. I mean, that's a whole nother argument. And then the whole reloading thing, getting into that. There's a lot of, we talked about briefly about factory ammo.
Yeah.
It's fine. It really is.
Great starting point.
And the higher end factory ammo, you were talking your core locks, the muzzle velocity difference.
Yeah.
Well, you start getting into like that Hornady sub-performance stuff,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other manufacturers now that make really good quality ammo. That variation isn't there, and that's why you're paying a little bit more. It's not just because the box looks cool.
Yeah, there's a reason they're $10-12 more a box. And
right.
For the accuracy that you're getting, it's totally worth it.
Oh, sure, especially if you don't have the means of reloading or the knowledge of doing that. But I would say don't be afraid to try it. Once you try it, just be prepared to buy a lot of shit because you're going to, especially if you start hitting and you're like, this is cool.
Yeah.
You're going to end up spending some cash.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And if you're married,
good luck.
You're going to get, you might get in a ringer, so yeah, don't be afraid to try new things, and you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to do it.
Perfect. What about you, Brayden?
Yeah, exactly as Brian said. Opportunity and expectations, I think, are the main things to consider when you're trying to get into this. And, I mean, as we've covered, pretty thoroughly, you don't have to break the bank to get into shooting, a rifle and trying to poke out there. But along with that, your expectations should be, according to your gear, but in that consideration, with what you're putting on your gun, you've got, pretty good opportunities with, a lot of gear out there, a lot of options these days, but, having your expectations adjusted accordingly.
Yeah, don't make your expectations so high that you get so bummed out because, well, you're brand new at it or whatever.
Right.
You're not going to be Chris Kyle, making, record shit,
Right.
Just go out there and have some fun, especially living in Western Oregon. I mean, how many landings can you go to and just not even put up steel, but just shoot at rocks?
Right.
Like I've spent hundreds of dollars shooting at rocks. It's cool
good
shit.
practice.
It is very good practice.
There's probably the most realistic you're
and it's
get.
Immediate feedback too. You don't hear the gong bang, ring or whatever, but you'll see where you hit on the rock. Pick a chunk of moss. You can see that impact on the rock. For
sure. Yeah.
Well, if you're grouping good and you're grouping right, it doesn't matter where you hit as long as you're grouping. You can move your groups, but you can't. You got to fix your group first, and then you can move the group. That's something else too. That's a whole nother.
No. Well, I guess the thing that I would add to finish this thing off is, and it goes right in hand with what you guys were saying, is about, don't go on out and spending, find your budget, and then make sure that you work in that budget being able to shoot.
Right.
Like, be able to buy the setup and then go buy ammo. Don't be able to buy the setup and then not afford to go shoot the cocksucker. So if you can't afford a 300 rum brass bullets or the 300 rum box of bullets, don't buy it just because it's a 300 or 338 or go out and buy
$100 for a box of bullets for like a Lapua. You could easily spend $100 for a box of loaded ammo.
You got a long gun that you can't shoot.
The same thing like with your scope rings and your your rail. Like you don't go out and buy this gun and then throw the cheapest rings you can find on. Right. And a Bushnell scope.
If that's
or
what
whatever.
you want in your budget, set your budget for that because there's so much available in that budget.
I'd rather have a cheap gun that I shoot all the time than a really expensive gun that I can't afford to shoot more than twice a year.
And if anybody says a cheap gun is not accurate, I will go get Brady's fucking Howler. And I will shoot. It blows me away how good that gun shoots.
That's funny.
And I have spent so much time and money on my 300 and developing loads for my dad's 300 and a couple of my 7 mags and my Lapua, and then Brady just gets one and it's like, yep, nailed it. So you can do it cheap and you can have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys both for coming on to the show. And it was fun. I enjoy talking about guns. It's nice to get away from the bows for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely, we'll have to have you guys on again to hear sometime and talk more hunting stories and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Well, maybe we'll do some some of the load testing stuff.
There you go.
Caliber selection,
what you're doing for, and that's a whole nother podcast just with load testing with all the measurements you're taking, and this gun likes a 2000s off, this one likes a 2000s jam, or what all that different stuff means and everything. You know? And you can do that on a budget too. Once you get into that, there's a lot of packages like we touched on briefly, where you can get into that on a budget and not. You're not going out to win gold medals. You don't have to have that mentality. So
right. Well, I appreciate it, guys, and we'll definitely be getting you back on here soon.
Heck yeah, it'd be a blast.
I look forward to more of your rifle series.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. All right, I'll see you guys later.
See you.
Well, that's this episode of the podcast. Give me your feedback. I really do need it after this one because probably most of the guys listening to this, I know they're all probably archery. I'm sure a lot of you guys are guns just like me as well. So be sure to give me your feedback. I plan on having, I've got some really cool guests lined up for long range more technical stuff as well. But yeah, we've got some guests lined up for the guns, so we'll love to hear your guys' feedback, whether you want me to continue with this, because this is something that I'm excited about, and if you can use it too, because that's what it really goes down to, is if the users are going to be benefiting it and using the information, then it's worth continuing to doing. So let me know. Leave a comment or something on one of my platforms, a review with a comment, so I can see what you're talking about, and be happy to cater to your guys' ideas. So as always, Patreons have the biggest say in what the shows do, where the show goes, the questions that are asked, even future guests. So if you want to be more involved with the show, become a patron. Right now, any amount, $1 to $5 to $10 to $15, doesn't matter, gets you entered in all the giveaways. But be forewarned, eventually we're going to have tiers to having access to certain giveaways and certain exclusivity to the show. So just really, really appreciate everybody out there listening to the show, all the patrons especially, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.